Welcome back. With the Department of Education on the chopping block, the head of the nation's largest teachers union, the insufferable Randi Weingarten, appears to be playing nice, at least for now. In her response to the nomination of Linda McMahon, Weingarten, writing in part, "We'll try to work with anyone who puts the aspirations of our students, families, and communities first." Sounding even more optimistic on MSNBC earlier this week.
I am taking a reserved judgment, wait and see attitude. Clearly, she wanted to be a teacher once, and she was on the Connecticut Board of Education for a year. My members don't really care about whether they have a bureaucracy of the Department of Education or not. In fact, Al Shanker and the AFT in the 1970s were opposed to its creation. We thought it should stay within HEW because of the whole child.
HEW was Health, Education, and Welfare. It got branched off and became its own department under Carter, of course. And Betsy DeVos ran the Department of Education under Donald Trump, and she joins us now. And Madam Secretary, it's good to see you again. Talk about, do you think that this is was that a genuine response from Randi Weingarten? Does she really believe what she just said, that she's not concerned?
Well, I don't know if she actually meant it, but I can guarantee you that she is right. Teachers don't want to have the bureaucracy of the Department of Education. Teachers don't. The key is that she does, and she wants to have that power consolidated. She mentioned HEW, the former agency that housed education before 1979, because she wants to have power from cradle to grave over everything to do with education. But the right thing for teachers is to not have that bureaucracy in Washington, D.C., sending all the strings attached to states and local districts.
You know, they've said that they're against the idea of taking the money that is in the federal government right now and sending it back to the states. So Randi Weingarten doesn't like that. It made me wonder, because there's a lot of states in this country that don't respect unions the way that others do. You know, there's right-to-work states, and then there's other states that aren't. Does she think that there are conservative states in this country that will not respect their union and might give their union some trouble?
Well, remember that when the Department of Education was formed, it was to consolidate the control at the federal level and give the unions and the whole system a central voice through which to operate and to wield control. And the sad thing is that children have suffered for decades now. They have suffered, and we've seen it even more keenly the last few years in the way they overstepped everything, every boundary, every step of the way through COVID. And so this is an ideal time to be examining how to best support families and kids. And the best way to do that is to get those dollars closest to the families, ideally attaching them in the figurative backpack to each child that's especially in need of it. We're talking about not disbanding the budget, but the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C.
I wonder if any part of this agenda, that they're about to set in, and what Linda McMahon is going to do, is going to be going after these unions that I think a lot of parents have been so turned on. I mean, we saw what they did with COVID, and that was a real big red flag. We've seen what they've done. I mean, they fight so hard against charter schools, which have been so wonderful for kids that are intelligent but are just lost in these terrible inner city schools that have been, as you said, have been failing for the last 45 years, if not longer. Do you think there's any part of this agenda that McMahon is going to be able to get to that is going to perhaps rein in some of the power of these unions? Are they going to go after them in any kind of way? Should they?
The best way to rein in the power of the unions is to give more power to the families that actually have the greatest vested interest in each child. And you do that through policies that support education freedom and choice, and also through divesting or block granting from the federal level whatever Congress appropriates for a child's education, instead of sending it to a bureaucracy in Washington that adds all kinds of strings to it when it ultimately goes to a state or a local district, and also sucks up a lot of the money in Washington to pay the bureaucracy and to pay all of these alphabet soup of organizations organizations that somehow have their hand into the pot. The best way to combat that is to really get the monies closest to the family and ideally supporting the families, especially low-income families who have struggled the most with their children getting a proper education, and parents with children with disabilities and special needs. Those are two areas that there's federal law around, but that can be supported in a much different way than giving that power to the bureaucracy in D.C., which is effectively controlled by the teacher unions, the school unions, we should say, and all of the attending organizations.
It's a failing organization. Very excited to see how it changes and what can be done, because there's so much potential. And it's so disappointing to see how bad it has gotten over the last, as you said, 45 years. Betsy DeVos, the former education secretary, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Great to be with you.